Part 3. You will hear a supervisor talking to two students, called Sue and Bill, on a food science course. First, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen carefully and answer questions 27 to 30.
You both chose the assignment on the sociology and history of cookery books as background to the food science course. I think the key question here is, why are there so many cookery books?
Well, they are definitely a fashion item.
In what sense?
If their main purpose were to teach how to cook, there would be no need for so many. Based on the ones I studied, I'd say they aren't at all to help in the kitchen. They seem marketed so they reflect more than basic needs. They create an impression of a lifestyle people aspire to. I have friends with kids who have 1 or 2 books on parenting skills, but dozens of cookery books.
Have there always been cookery books?
I was surprised to find that the first Western cookery book appeared about 1,500 years ago, and it really succeeded in standing the test of time. It was written by a Roman called Apicius. We don't know much about him, sadly. It's not very easy to follow, and some of the recipes are repeated several times. Researchers think they came from a number of different manuscripts which have since been lost. Although the editing isn't great, the book influenced cookery advice in Europe for more than 1,000 years.
But it's almost impossible to use the recipes in old cookery books like this one nowadays.
Why? Because we no longer have the same tastes? Or are the ingredients no longer available?
More because the readership they're aimed at has changed.
Yes. In those days, cooks wrote for fellow cooks and the other family servants working in the kitchen. They understood one another's shorthand notes. These people didn't need guidance about quantities and seasoning. They knew all this. It was their job.
It's also interesting that there was no particular order to cookery books, with the logic we expect today. A fish recipe could follow a recipe for cake.
What does that show? That they were written and produced speedily?
No, I think it indicates that they were not intended to be read for enjoyment. Before the 19th century, few educated people cooked for themselves, and probably only the wealthiest employed cooks who could read. It was probably normal that the cooks were read to.
By the children of the family or better educated family servants.
Yes, and later books began to include other things like advice for the household.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 36. Now listen and answer questions 31 to 36.
Right. Well, let's move on. Now, you wanted me to talk about the recommended reading list for the modules for next term?
What do you think of Analysis of Human Nutrition?
It's not an easy read, but certainly covers a lot. More importantly, it really does focus on the latest ideas. It came out this year, so perhaps that's not surprising. But if you want to get some background detail, I'd look at food microbiology, which I think covers the development of food science since the beginning of the 20th century very well.
Yes, that's the one with the old photos, isn't it?
That's right. They don't really add anything to it, in my opinion. Food product development case studies is another important text, and the research is very thorough, and that is useful for your further reading, too.
How about core scientific disciplines in food science? I had a look at it and it seems quite light.
Don't let the length or lack of it put you off. That's its attraction. It's very simple and concise.
What do you recommend to help us prepare for our work experience?
Marketing food products is a little traditional, though at the time people said it had a fresh approach. However, it's worth looking at the bibliography. It'll be a useful starting point for further reading.
What about food composition? There are hundreds of titles in the library. Where do we start?
Easy. You want The Science of Food Composition. No other book matches it. It really helps you understand the topic. Make sure you do the tasks at the end of each section. That's its strength.
Right. The opportunity for independent study.
Well, I hope that's helpful to you.
Yes, thanks.
Thanks.
That is the end of part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 3.